Latest in Afghanistan, where the Taliban says it seized the country's second and third largest cities, Kandahar and Herat now. Unverified video to show you, circulating on social media, purportedly showing Afghan security forces fleeing Kandahar just half an hour before the Taliban's announcement. The US Embassy in Kabul is urging all Americans to leave the country immediately, going so far as even to offer loans, temporary ones, to those unable to afford plane tickets home and to use the first available commercial carriers, they're saying. Meantime, there's widespread speculation. Indeed, the capital, Kabul, could fall to the Taliban within days. Here's the situation at the moment. I'll stand back. There's the key for you to take in. The militants control 2/3 of the country. You can see in red there. Government forces are in the green, and what's contested is in yellow, basically, the contested regions. Now, currently, the Islamists have taken hold of some crucial, strategically important locations very near the capital. Let's see the progress. Well, the Taliban's ramped up its offensive. That's how it's gone so far this year. Since April, particularly after US President Joe Biden's announcement that he was pulling American troops out. At the time, the Islamist group held less than a fifth of the country's territory. But look at where it is more or less today. More than 50%, more than half of it. With the Taliban taking hold of multiple provinces in a single day, then US troops are back to work in Afghanistan, though with a slightly different mission this time. On the face of it, they're there, they say, to get US embassy staff out of the country, as the State Department says it's going to dramatically reduce its diplomats in Kabul. And although this may look like an evacuation, officials tried very hard to strike an optimistic note.
This is not abandonment. This is not an evacuation. This is not the wholesale withdrawal. What this is a reduction in the size of our civilian footprint. This is a drawdown of civilian Americans.
There are 3,000 U.S. military personnel headed for Afghanistan to secure what it's calling a safe drawdown of American civilian personnel. Basically, U.S. embassy staff and others are going to be escorted out of the country by the military. The military will be there to make sure that they're not harmed in the process. Now, we do know at this point that the Taliban, after receiving and seizing several provinces in a single day, is now inching closer to the capital city of Kabul. But on Tuesday, Joe Biden made clear that Washington is not going to step in to rescue Kabul in this situation.
Afghan leaders have to come together. We lost thousands, lost death and injury, thousands of American personnel. They've got to fight for themselves.
Now, the current Taliban offensive began back in April when Joe Biden announced that he intended to withdraw all U.S. forces from the country by September 11th. Now, that gave rise to questions at this point. What is really going on? Now, will the USA, now that it's sent, 3,000 more troops to oversee the withdrawal of U.S. civilian personnel and embassy staff, will the USA continue to have a role in the country? Well, when that question was presented to the State Department, here's the response.
This is not the reintroduction of military forces to pursue the mission that they were pursuing prior to May 1.
Now, September 11th is the deadline that Joe Biden set for which the U.S. forces will be withdrawn from the country. However, U.S. officials continue to make clear that despite pulling all U.S. forces out of the country, they intend to still offer support to the Afghan government in the face of the onslaught of the Taliban. Now, how exactly this support will be offered was something that John Kirby, representing the Pentagon, refused to clarify. Here's what happened when he was asked about it.
Does this mean the U.S. military withdrawal is not going to be complete by August 31st?
Again, what I said was we're aiming to facilitate the reduction of these civilian personnel by August 31st. So it's all lining up on the same timeline. I won't speculate about what the footprint's going to look like post-August 31st because there's this additional mission set of helping process special immigrants. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But the drawdown itself is still on track to be complete by August 31st.
That makes no sense, John.
I know what you're
putting in 3,000 troops.
I know what you're saying, Lucas. I'm saying of the original footprint plans That's still continuing, but yes, we are adding additional troops for this specific and narrow focus.
And you're hoping to get them all out by the end of the month.
I'm not going to speculate beyond August 31st.
Now, it's important to note the United States has maintained a military presence in Afghanistan for over 18 years. And during that time, the country has not become any more stable. The role of the drug lords and the poppy fields has certainly expanded in the country. Different terrorist groups and warlords have battled for control. The Taliban remained intact with different parts of territory and such. And now, after 18 years of the United States not having success when it came to the stabilization of Afghanistan, we have the United States set to leave the country. And despite the Taliban marching ahead and inching closer to Kabul, those plans to withdraw from Afghanistan seem to be in full effect.
Yeah, so with hostilities showing no sign of abating in Afghanistan, now the UN is warning that nearly 400,000 civilians have had to leave their homes since the start of the year, with a huge spike since May. Further, the UN saying the displaced people are heading to Kabul to flee the Taliban. Well, how long will that last, given everything we just said? Here are just some of the heart-wrenching stories that refugees have to tell.
I have been displaced from Tarakan city. The Taliban killed my son. They took all the belongings from my house and set fire to them in front of me. They punched me in the mouth, causing my teeth to fall out. They demanded my son, and I told them that he's a school teacher. He recently became a teacher and had not even received his salary yet.
Heavy clashes broke out and we were taken hostage. The fighting went on for about 6 or 7 days. We couldn't go outside or do anything. We managed to escape, and now we are displaced.
Yeah, and where to go to? Those displaced Afghans seeking asylum may not be welcome in Europe either, with the bloc currently a big loggerheads over what best to do with migrants and those fleeing violence. Next, and for you, RT's Paula Sleer delving into what happened to Europe's open door policy.
The European Union is split over what to do with Afghan refugees seeking asylum. In a letter to the European Commission, several countries insisted they have the right to forcibly deport those whose cases have been rejected. They wrote that not to deport them would motivate more refugees to flee to Europe.
We would like to highlight the urgent need to perform returns, both voluntary and non-voluntary, to Afghanistan. Stopping returns sends the wrong signal and is likely to motivate even more Afghan citizens to leave their home for the EU.
The situation in Afghanistan is deteriorating by the hour. It comes as the US and NATO prepare to withdraw their troops at the end of the month after a decades-long war. The situation is so bad that the Netherlands, Germany and France have decided to pause the deportations, at least for now.
The situation in Afghanistan is likely to change, and events for the coming period are so uncertain that I have decided to introduce a moratorium on deportation decisions and departures.
But Greece, Austria, Belgium and Denmark are standing firm. They want the rejected asylum seekers out.
The EU is not ready and does not have the capacity to handle another major migration crisis.
While here in Europe, Afghans already make up around 10% of asylum seekers, they're the second largest group after Syrians. And for a continent still scarred by the migration crisis of 5-6 years ago, there is a feeling of déjà vu, a feeling of having been there before, that has Europeans worried they might be on the verge of a fresh refugee crisis.
Those people who are here from Afghanistan, they are not migrants, they are refugees and asylum seekers. And that is why it is very important to remember that all Western countries have signed Human Rights Convention, Refugee Convention, and they are duty-bound to help anyone, not only Afghans, but Syrians or anybody who come to their country and ask for asylum because of civil war in their country or any conflict or personal threat to their life. So I think when the Western countries say, oh, we don't care if Afghan refugees go home or we deport them, I think this is a violation of human rights, and we shouldn't do that kind of thing.